My name is Megan Campbell. I am super excited to be here with Colin Currie today. I am a past member of World Percussion Group. I was a part of this virtual tour in 2023. I'm so excited to be hosting today. Colin, welcome. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us. We're so excited to have you.
Yeah, great pleasure. Nice to be back. I look forward to these sessions and excited to hear people play and get into discussion. So yeah, rock on.
Awesome. Thank you. We'll go ahead and get started right up. We have Vlad here today. Going first, I will go ahead and bring you on stage. You can introduce yourself and talk a little bit about your piece.
Hi, Colin.
Hey, Hi, Vlad. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, likewise. Really nice to meet you. So I'm going to be playing a sangha today, or well, there's two videos of a sangha, kind of like the first primary chunk, and then the second. I left out a middle stretch of 16th notes I didn't quite have yet.
I think I might know the one.
yeah, yeah. But I had seen your recording, your Kohlberg recording, a long time ago. And then when I had been talking to my professors about needing a piece for DMA auditions, I was like, okay, well, I like this one, and I've seen Colin play it before. So I was like, okay, let me just put it in my hands and see what we can do. And then that was before I had known about the World Percussion Group Academy. So when that roster came out and I saw your name on it, I was like, okay, I got to audition, because if this happens, like, I've got to play it. I've got to play it for Colin. Yeah,
sure.
I just think you have some really interesting choices and ideas, and I would love to get your thoughts on my performance and maybe pick your brain a little bit.
Yeah, with pleasure.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'll get straight into my take on the piece. I mean, first of all, enjoyed many things you did. Hands are moving well. I like your tempo choices are definitely within the zone. What I will do now is move to some things that I hope you found with constructive comments. For me, the piece is like one of those mosaic pieces. So there are sort of 5 key structural elements. There's the opening kind of fanfare. I see the opening of the piece as like a fanfare, and I find it a really useful piece to play at the beginning of a concert. It's a really nice way onto the stage. Actually, performed this work myself a fortnight ago in a new solo recital program, well, a new collection of pieces, and I put a sanga at the top just to get me on the stage there and weigh in a bit. I think it's good that way. So there's this opening is like a fanfare, and every time that material comes back, I try and get it sounding the same kind of way. It's kind of quite jaunty and a little bit stumbly because of the 5.
Mm-hmm.
So it has to have an identity, and that takes me to the next point, is that I think each section of the piece would do well to have a little more identity in the structure, because the listener could get lost very quickly, and it's extremely important that you give the listener as much information as possible without condescension. So the best on any instrument, the best soloists are those that play with extreme clarity, but you don't even notice they're doing it. So you're a very fine pianist or a violinist, and you'd be blown away, let's say. And then if someone would then ask of you, well, what was so good? You may well come to, well, it was just so clear. It's usually what happens to me, at least. If I hear something that's enjoyable, I'm always linked to the structure. The balance is good. The dynamics are right, and it's things linked to clarity. So there's the fanfare material, and then there's the sort of fast material, and that just always has to have that kind of slightly nervy, excitable feel. Then there's the slightly strange. There's the flam. Now that I think you could do more with. I mean, obviously, it is going to end up being, this is how I play it, but they put me in the chair tonight. So with those ones, I play that one a little bit more melodically, just to give that one some identity, because that can sound a little flat. That can just sound a bit like it's on hold. So that one I play with a little more melodic, just to give it an identity. And then as far as the semiquavers go, the very, very important thing about that is that the first iteration is quite short, just a few bars long.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very clearly marked accents on every beat. So whatever the hands are doing, any sort of drummy, intrinsic accents that might fall on the hands, you need to avoid. You need to remake it square. And that's the game with that one. And then the second iteration is piano, but the listener, even the first-time listener, will recognize that material if you play it right. And again, the accents are on the beat. Then in the middle, the long section, the long stretch, we get what is kind of what the listener was wanting, which is a kind of emancipated version of those 16ths, with the kind of implied funky accents finally permitted. And you're allowed to finally play it like a drummer might. So I think you have to get that into the structure, and indeed that's also on the page. So I mean, I'm very keen on my theme alert is text. What is actually on the page, and are we really getting that off? So that's my take on the structure. And then the real challenge, I also recorded this piece recently for I made a Kohlberg film, which was just done in sort of 4 edits very, very quickly. So I can't vouch strongly for that. But what I did do is I recorded it as a single release for my record label, and that I'm a little more confident with. But what I will say is that middle section, the long section with the 16ths, I used a click track for the recording because it's incredibly difficult not to push the tempo. And I found you in that trap. Now, what it means is that for the listener, if the tempo is insecure like that, on some level, they'd sort of just tap out because it doesn't sound strong. It's not grounded. And if you're able to hold that tempo, you hold the listener's attention. But if you give in to rushing, then it's an easy loss, if you see what I mean. So that you need to maybe work on. What I do with the piece as well is that it's very, very clear in my preparation what the tempo is of each section. Now, Kevin's tempos are on the high side. I don't even try and play them, but I do know my own targets. So every time I prepare the piece, I practice it in linked sections, and I never really do a run through. It's not particularly useful to me. I just cook up each section and get it to the right tempo. The mallet choice, that is personal touch. I find the thinness of your sticks is a little. It doesn't really grab me. The timbre of the drums, especially the bongos, is a little thin.
Okay.
That sounds harsh, but that's personal preference. I don't even know what they are. Funny enough, I got these sticks at Kohlberg, but they're quite heavy, and they're pretty hard. They must be some kind of plastic mallet, I suppose. And that also means that when the metals come, that's really a sort of berserko moment. The other thing that I found really helped me with the metals, and I had a lot of trouble playing that bit accurately and also not rushing. I'll say that happily against myself, no problem. And what I found is that I got an extra piece of I got an extra copy of that page, or both those entries. I made a page of music with both those entries on, and I put it like right in front of the metals, so that when I turned to play the metals, my whole physical aspect focused on that. Because I found before I was playing here, but I was reading here, and it was and I had a page turn. I played a piece with an iPad, and I had a dodgy page turn to get on the last page, and I just said to myself, "No, this isn't working." So I got that sorted and got it into my field of vision, so that when I turn to the metals, it's just bam, 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 and off I go. Now, to hold that tempo, it's kind of weird, and I end up what I think is you have to do is you end up subdividing the triplet. So it's because that's in the hands more or less. What's written is but what really comes out is because of the hands. I mean, I know there's some doubles and things in there, but this ding 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 ding. The metals are basically ding 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 like this. So that ends up carrying the day. And that's what you have to listen to for holding the tempo, to try and once you start that, whatever tempo you choose, and that can range from kind of sensible to, totally crazy. And both approaches can work. It depends what mood you're in that day. Try when you start that section, try and hold it steady.
Okay.
What I will say is a piece like this, it's easy to rush. That's easy. And I'm sure I do it every time I perform the piece. But it's easy. And when I do keep a lid on it, and when I hold it and find that bit of width between the notes, I feel like, yeah, that was a different experience. But if I'm blowing through things, like doing this kind of what I call micro rushing, just we all know we're doing it. It's just just a tiny bit early on that downbeat, like every time. Like, what am I doing? You know you're doing it. Try and just no, not doing that anymore. And then the 5 in the left hand, the bass drum is a bit of a thing. I find that people are not particularly confident in how that rhythm subdivides. So even that first section is really important to be able to play the da da digga da da accurately, which is the offbeat quavers against the 5. So maybe you can reanalyze that rhythm so you really have it accurately. And then the other one is a simple 2 against 5, da da digga da da, which a lot of people seem to trip up on. And the other thing that also people do, and it's become a bad habit in the piece, is that with the diminuendo, they take a slightly too much time to my tastes. So da 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 da. And then the other thing this is a lot of information, but I think this is how it has to be in a session like this. Look carefully at the last page, because I think it's important for the structure. Some of the 5s have a diminuendo, but others don't. And I think the sustain of the held double forte, or even, I can't remember, maybe triple forte, whatever it is, it needs to be held. So that's a real difference. And I think people just sort of overlook that and play all the 5s like this. But some of them are sempre fortissimo, for sure. So it's a piece, I would come back to my initial analysis. It's a mosaic. The better you define each section for the listener, the more secure it will sound. When you start a section, it doesn't matter if you've changed the tempo. It doesn't. But hold the tempo. Don't be awkward. Don't get into a weird tempo place like, a bit fast, oops, or too slow. I'm going to rush because, whatever it is, because one can start a section too slow as well. So, and I think that last page, it needs to have more declamatory aspect so that it's really last section, final section, really strong, and enjoy the gaps. The listener, this is one thing I keep saying, but it is very useful, a bit of advice. We're often told, this might be the first time the listener hears the piece. That is true, and that is good advice. But I think even better advice is to refine that and say this might be the only time they hear this piece. So that means in real time, everything you play is like instantly in the past. It's gone. And for the listener, as they inevitably come to the end of a piece, they have this sort of moment or memory of the piece to reflect on. And the more you can do to define your performance structurally and give strong identity to each section, whichever piece you're doing. And I know that people are playing Time for Marimba later. I mean, we'll probably have the same conversation. It's all about defining each section so that you don't end up in like amorphous structural territory. I mean, you didn't. I could hear very clearly where you were going, but the more you can do, the better. And that also requires definitely a finite number of ideas for each section. Take the opening section of this piece. It needs 2 or 3 ideas, but completely formed. So for me, that would be fanfare, steady, confident, and that's it. But if you get all those ideas, all of them firing, you get a really good idea of the fanfare, sort of confidence, and then holding that tempo or whatever the third element would be. 2 or 3 elements to define your structural episodes. That's it. But that's not easy. But it's kind of what you have to know. So how's that? Any questions? I think we're almost done on your time, I'm afraid.
No, I thought that was all clear, really clear. A lot of great information. I haven't done a word association thing with this piece yet for all the sections, but I do that with a lot of other instruments.
Yeah.
So I just hadn't translated it over to like the non-pitched skins medium before.
It's even more important because for the lay listener in particular, with the absence of pitches, there's another little barrier in there. So I think the structure of a performance, it's one of those things where the clearer it is for you, the clearer it is for the listener, and I'm a total believer in that. Even though they won't come to the end of the concert and say, "Oh, I really enjoyed your opening. It had fanfare and confidence and really good." They won't say any of that. Maybe they won't even have the vocabulary to do that. But on some level, even someone on the back row who's never heard a percussion piece in their life, they'll get this from your performance, and I'm 100% convinced. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Really, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Good luck with it.
Congrats, Vlad, and thank you for the awesome feedback, Colin. Super great.
Yeah.
Next up, we have Paulina. Hi, how's it going?
Hi guys, how's it going? Can you hear me well?
Yeah, good, Paulina. How are you?
Okay. Great. I just managed to escape a masterclass at university to come to your masterclass, which I'm very excited to be part of.
Happy to help with that.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the piece you'll be playing, just super briefly?
Yeah, sure. Today I'll be playing David Lang's Unchained Melody. It's a piece I've been working on for the past few months, and I had the opportunity to play it 2 weeks ago at a percussion class concert here at the university. So the recording is directly from that concert, and yeah, it's kind of a result of a few months of work and practice, and I'm curious to see what you will say about that.
Yeah, sure thing. Good repertoire.
Awesome.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, thank you.
Do we have a couple of questions about the sound? So it's
Yeah.
quite quiet on my end, and then I put my headphones on. It was great, and I could hear really well, and then it cut out altogether. So then I had to go back to listening to what is quite a quiet version.
It cut out altogether, the sound.
Yeah,
Oh, that's a shame.
It just stopped. But then when I put my headphones off, I was able to. I heard it again, but unfortunately, it's rather quiet this end.
Right.
So
I don't know.
Yeah, that's something for the Percussion Academy to either look at or. I mean, I've got everything's tickety-boo here. I've got everything turned up as full as possible.
It's possibly the fault of the website, because I mean the video I uploaded, I'm sure that it was done.
Yeah.
It was done well enough to be audible without too much effort.
Yeah.
So,
okay. But I got a strong impression of your performance, which I really, really liked.
Thank you.
So I do have some questions though. What to you? What is this piece about? Is it about anything?
Not really, honestly.
Yeah.
I mean, the impression I got after working with it for so long, because it's I wouldn't call it exactly a hard piece that really requires a lot of effort to learn and to get to know it. But the more time I spent with it, the more I understood it, and the more I saw that it was just kind of playing with structure and playing with layering different sounds on top of one another, and just really it's kind of a minimalistic play about different sounds mixed together. I don't think there's anything more to it than that.
Yeah, I mean that is a very well. That's not only a very acceptable answer, but it's one that I would agree with. And I just wanted to ask you that because I just want to try and maybe maximize how you get that to work. I think it's very, very important. Do you have you agreed with yourself a specific tempo to shoot for in this piece in your practice?
Yes, but that very much depends on the room that I find myself in. And downstairs in the practice rooms, I managed to have a room that was quite well sound insulated, and therefore I could kind of notch the tempo up a bit. But then in this recording that you just saw, it was in a concert hall that's quite big. And therefore it didn't really make sense to rush it a bit, because all the sounds were mixing together.
Right.
Yeah, but I think more or less the imagined tempo that I have is around like dotted note 60.
Yeah, as written.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you raised an interesting point, and I think there are two approaches to halls and acoustics. The first thing to say about that is that pieces will sound different in different halls, and that's not something to be in conflict with. I mean, I really always relish that first moment of getting into a hall and finding out the relationship with it, and playing as best I can to the acoustics in a hall. But I think it's the most important thing is to bring your version of a piece to a hall and let it sound how it does in the hall. And kind of just there it is.
Just rolling with it.
Yeah, just rolling with it. The only exception to that would be to do with dynamic level. So I think with dynamics, it's important to say, okay, whoa, wait with this metals or loud bass drum or whatever it is. If you're in a smaller hall or a very boomy hall, there are obviously going to be further limits on the high dynamics. But as far as tempos go, I think be careful with that, because I felt with this version, I just want it to go a little quicker.
Yeah, I feel you, because also this is the second time I listened to the recording, and I remember being very, very stressed before going on stage. So I
Right.
think maybe this was kind of like a safety hack for myself, not to completely lose control over what's going on, because also I was playing from memory.
Yeah, very impressive. Yeah.
Thanks. So I kind of had to implement as many safety structures for me not to fall apart and to just remain on the track with the piece.
Yeah.
And I think that for the day that I was having, because we as musicians, we are also, I don't think that, at least for me, it's not like I can, some things can just go wrong, and sometimes you're just not in the mood to play. And that day I definitely wasn't in the mood to play. So I had to just do
I see.
anything that I could for me to be able to play it to the best of my abilities.
Yeah. Well, I can maybe help with that as well, because sometimes that is difficult. And the more training you have and the more kind of cold practice you do, what I call cold practice, which is getting a piece just built in so that no matter the environment, no matter the hole, no matter the day, the good, the bad, the ugly, whatever it is going on, at a certain point, the piece begins and you're in. And for that, I think it's very, very important when you're practicing a piece, very much so like this one, is that you keep your practice very steady and don't push the tempo too high. So if I was playing this piece, I mean, I've not played this piece, but I know it well, and I've played pieces very similar to it and like it, and the same kind of challenges. I've played Anvil Chorus, for example, and I would have the same approach with that. A practice would be very much on the steady side, because I know that when I get into this on stage and things feel kind of hot, I'm going to be able to add a few clicks of tempo. And sometimes that can be a very helpful thing. But in the practice room, the more you can do to be steady, and I find myself going up against deadlines the whole time. And if I have a section in a piece where I still can't get to the target tempo, there's no point pushing it. It's useless. It's a total waste of time. And so the more steady practice I do, even if that means taking a huge gamble in the concert, it's better that way. So just keep the practice nice and steady, and know your target tempos. And then when you do get into a bigger hole, I think be a little more confident that a space like that can take the tempo at least. The main thing to be careful of is not overblowing. But I think that the tempos that you've prepared, that's what I want to hear. And I don't really want a hole to slow someone down. It'll just sound different. And it could sound better than your practice room. It might be unsettling. You might think, wow, what's all this sound? And like, what's all these echoes? And why is it so boomy? But that could be a really good thing. So I think be a little more confident. I really like your sounds, and especially when the accented notes, I guess, are in your feet. They come in at the. That's extremely good. But anything you could do to make it even more steady, because occasionally I could hear a little wobble, which I understand. I'm sure I would have the same difficulties. Just try and keep it absolutely, almost painfully steady.
Yeah.
And that is what the listener will take away from it. But really good sounds, really good commitment to the piece. But I would just push it a little further with the tempo, and a little more confidence, I think. Yeah.
Right.
Also, this style of piece, and David Lang's music, it's quite interesting to note that he also, with the way the piece just stops, it is quite interesting that his music, the more you can do to make it less dimensional, the more effective it becomes. So this is not a piece that needs a huge number of ideas. you need a very specific tempo that, as much as possible, you don't move an inch from. Okay, and then you need very well organized sounds. You need a huge amount of precision, and then you need a real cool head to deploy the piece. And it takes a lot of bravery to be so kind of cold with a piece, and really hold it steady and deliver on those parameters. So I think just concentrate on one or two items. I think you already have the kind of, it's not really the best word to use, but the coldness of the piece, I think you already have. But if you could just give it a little edge, I think that would be for the best. It was interesting to speak to you about how you felt the performance went. I mean, it's not a criticism, but of course it did sound a little bit safe, and that's maybe what you said, the self hacks.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was, because I know myself, and I know how stress can get the better of me when I'm on stage. And I was having really a particularly bad day, and I just, instead of panicking in front of everyone, which happened anyway, I just prefer to take it easy and just to have something to learn from also, because then I get to look at this video and I'm like, okay, knowing myself, I also know that I can still push it a bit further.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And we all have to, sometimes we have to just get through things. What I will say is maybe it's useful for you and anyone else, is this business of taking risks. I suppose the ultimate goal for a soloist is to never even hesitate about risk taking. You always take the risk, always. And that's something that I had to get used to very early on, because I had terrible nerves at the beginning of my career. Astonishing. I was so nervous. I would take the stage with an orchestra for a concerto and really feel like I don't know if I can remember the first note.
That's me. I really identify with this.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing: it's something that you have to get through, and it sounds like a
cliche,
Mission Impossible cliche or something. You have to let the training kick in, and it's true that if you're well enough prepared and you've really practiced that thing, once the music starts, I also find that this is true, and maybe this is some comfort. Once a piece is started, and once you're in the piece, there's less room for the nerves and psychology to be in your way, because the music is on. And for that reason, I always make sure that the beginning, the entry point of pieces, or even the first page, or however much is maybe necessary, is extremely secure. So every piece in my recital program, there's sort of overblown attention to the beginning of the piece, because maybe it doesn't apply to everyone, but I find that once I'm in and it's rolling, I feel better. I feel good. So it's very important to get the first page, or have 30 seconds or whatever it might be, get that really, really good, so that you are into the piece and it's started, and then the music is your friend, and your music is on side at that point, and that can be useful. And then all your practice, it's not just the practice you've done for that piece, but everything you've done, years and years and years of training and being a percussionist and playing the drums, or however we started, it's all of a sudden it's all there. But as a soloist, you should get some enjoyment for always taking the risk. Now, it's not good advice for orchestral playing, where you don't take the risk, and you want it to be the same every night, and you want everyone to trust you, and you don't want wild variations in how you play. But I played sort of recital a fortnight ago, and it went one direction. But if I play the same program, even if I would do it in the same hall next month, it would be totally different. I would I would prepare it in the same way, but it certain things would go in a different direction because I'm just used to embracing those moments of risk. And when you're a soloist, in actual fact, it's true, and it's no bad thing to say that the worst that can happen is not particularly bad. You know, when you're playing on your own, I mean, when you're playing with other people, or you're in a quartet or in an orchestra, if you mess up, it can be a blight on the whole concert. But if you're playing solo and a few notes go because you're going for gold, good. You know, that's actually a good thing. You know, if you're a soloist as a percussionist and you're not making a few mistakes, I probably wouldn't want to hear you.
Okay, granted. I mean, I agree with this in a like on this human level. Obviously, this some extent of imperfection is actually it's mandatory in what we do. The thing with risk taking generally and holding my nerves just in control, let's say, while playing, is the thing that, let's say that I also have this kind of strategy, like you said, that I enter the piece and I feel good about it because I've practiced the beginning, and once the process has started, it's fine. But then I kind of I get myself into a trap of thinking about what I'm playing at the moment instead of just playing at the moment. And this is the process that it's the hardest for me to shut down while playing, because once I start thinking about what I'm actually doing and what was before and what's coming next, then it's gone. So and then I start freaking out because I stopped tracking the progress of the piece through playing, and instead I just started thinking about it. So for me, that's the biggest challenge. And for pieces like this, like Unchained Melody, worst thing is, even if I fall apart from the rail track, let's say, there's no place for me to just get back on it, because once it starts, it has to go until the end. There's no such thing as taking a breather while playing. And yeah, that's for me one of the biggest challenges in playing solo, because I don't experience this kind of nerves when I'm with a chamber ensemble.
Well, I think the important thing is to embrace this challenge. I mean, it's a psychological circle, but the good thing is about a circle is you can leave at any point. You will find a way out of this. And what I think the main thing I can say is put faith in the fact that with experience and performing experience, this side of your inner game, it will get bored of itself.
You think so?
Yeah, and what you have to do is make friends with it. And in actual fact, the reason that you're going through this in your experience is that it's part of adrenaline and your body and your physicality being in a heightened state. And that heightened state will allow you to excel and play at the top of your game. So it's next time it happens, don't be mad about it. Don't be upset. Don't be angry. Don't even fight it. Just bring it close and use that energy and rebound from it. And it will just start to dissipate. This is my experience, because I went through the same thing. And another breakthrough for me was to do with preparations of pieces. So I had one performance experience where I really didn't feel good in my head. Honestly, I was not good at all. But then I heard back a recording of this particular concert, and it was to a note. It was everything I could have hoped for. It was as accurate as it could possibly be. It had all the practice I'd done, all the shapes, all the phrasing. It was all there, and I thought, wow, that's because I did enough practice. And these demons were essentially irrelevant, because there was this document of this performance. It's like, well, I wouldn't change one thing about this. And then it shows in a way that how you feel about performance isn't relevant so long as the music is coming across.
That's exactly also my experience, because I usually leave the stage feeling awful about what I had played, even though I usually get an applause and people come to me after the concert saying congrats, saying that they'd enjoyed it. But I can't believe them unless I see a proof, and which is usually a recording, and then I'm like, that was actually not as bad as I had imagined.
Well, it's because you care, and perfectionism. It doesn't have a place in music. Perfectionism is what drives us to play music to the best of our abilities, but perfectionism is not relevant in the sense of trying to make a performance perfect. I've given exactly 0 perfect performances in my life, not one, and I'm not trying to either. I know that every time I take the stage, there will be something that doesn't work. I'm not a machine. I'm not an AI percussionist.
And neither would you want to be, probably.
Yeah. So I think the perfectionism is the goal, but the reality is that drive takes you to a certain place, but it's important to be on good terms with your self-criticism and the part of you that calls into question everything that you do. It's not a bad part of you. It's something to get on good terms with.
All right. Thank you so much.
So you do that. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, but you get it.
I have time, thankfully. Not in a rush anyway. And thank you for the beautiful lesson. Really good talk.
Oh, my pleasure. Okay. Good luck.
Thanks so much, Paulina, and thanks so much, Colin. Super, super great discussion. Next up, we have Zach. Hi, Zach. How's it going?
Living the dream. How about you?
Pretty good. Yeah, thanks.
Hi, Colin.
Hi, that's a good response.
I heard it one time. I was like, I got to use that.
Yeah.
Nice.
How are you?
Yeah, grand. It's a beautiful at home in Scotland, and it's this beautiful sunny day. So when it's sunny in Scotland, it's just
living the dream.
What can I say? Yeah, you are living the dream. Yeah, for real. Yeah.
Nice. Really quick, and I will go ahead and leave and pull up the piece. But Zach, if you could tell us just super, super quick about what piece you'll be playing, and maybe a bit about where you study or anything like that. Thanks.
Yeah. So I'm Zach. I'm from North Carolina. I study at University of North Carolina at Greensboro with Dr. Eric Willey. And this piece I'm playing today is a video from my junior recital. It's As Venturas for snare drum. I originally saw this piece be played at my freshman year, and a buddy of mine just absolutely killed it. So I wanted to play it one day and finally got the chance. And this is that video.
Very good. Nice. see about this.
Okay, yeah.
There it is. How's that? Can you hear me
Perfect.
now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. I was still trying to work on getting volume in the video. I found that time if I turned the mic off from this end, the video was louder. So that's what happened that time. Anyway, if you can hear me now, that's good. So
Yes, sir.
yeah, really good. What I was saying is how much I enjoyed your performance and the way your hands are moving. I mean, the video was a little bit at a distance, but I really liked the way you're getting around the snare drum. If you're doing a piece like this, I think it's important to know what it is. A snare drum solo is a very exciting moment as a percussionist and also for the audience. I quite often do snare drum encores in recitals or even in concertos. Just bring on a snare drum and give them something, because there's something so magical about the snare drum and also the way the hands move. I mean, when I had my first ever drum lesson, I was 6 years old, and I still remember my drum teacher. He got me right next to the snare drum, and then he showed me a snare drum roll, and I still remember that moment. It's like, I can't believe what I'm seeing. I don't understand the physics of it, and I was just so excited by the sound of it. So I think that's what audience get from this. Is it's important to remember, like, we as percussionists, a lot of these things are kind of fairly commonplace now, even all these extended techniques and the things with the hands. And for us, that's it's great, but it's also quite normal. But I think it's good to remember from the audience, this is sort of mind-blowing territory, and I think you could maybe do a little bit more. I don't know what the audience was, or if you had one, or you were just making a film. What was the context of this? Were the people in the audience?
Yes, it was my junior recital, so I had the rest of my percussion studio there, and then some friends and family.
Okay, good. Yeah. So, I mean, I think the selling of a snare drum piece is very, very important, and I think you've learned the piece really, really well. I would give yourself a little more credit for that, because there was something about your performance that was, although it was technically very, very good, and you're obviously a fine snare drum player, there was a little bit of I felt there was a little bit of a limit to what you were going to do with this piece in terms of how far you wanted to go with what is obviously a display piece. Like, it's musically speaking, it's on the lighter side. It's towards the direction of being something that's entertaining, and I think when you go in that direction, as we all do for certain pieces, it's important to not go halfway. You just go right to the extremity of those kinds of emotions, and just letting go, because you know this piece inside out, and you really love this piece. I think you could play it with more abandon, and yet you could still play it as technically competently as would make you happy, because from seeing that video, you seem like someone who take a lot of pride in technical side of performances. But I think you can have both. I mean, with percussion playing, sometimes there's this weird split. There's sort of people who have like this technical precision and the music is a bit cold, or there's people who like play with quite a lot of so-called musicality, but on a technical side it's not so good. But there's just absolutely no reason why we can't have common goals like that. So if I was working with you, I would just want you to be a little more free to roam with the piece musically, and just open it up even more to the possibilities in a live performance of excitement, and just sort of ducking and diving a bit more with the piece.
Absolutely. I'm just writing all this down.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit hard to say, to be honest, but from the video, I mean, maybe this would be a different experience in person, but I think it's worth having that conversation. Any piece that you play, it's important to know its place and its aesthetic. And as percussionists, we go all the way from very easygoing pieces, like very tonal and soft marimba pieces, for example, all the way to Stockhausen, Xenakis, whacked out avant-garde. And every piece has its strengths and every piece has its place. When you're doing a solo snare drum, it's important to say, right, yeah, this is fun. This is discursive. Like we're having a deep dive into quite a strange instrument. Like it's kind of bizarre. Like, what is this thing anyway? Most people, of course, in your audience, they don't even know what snare drum is. Like, what do you do? Like, what? And if you showed them, this is the snares. People don't know what that is, even though they hear snare drums every day of their life on the radio. So I think it's the nice thing about showing off the snare drum is like, this is probably the world's most underrated instrument because we hear it all the time in like all music, just about. It's a very nice thing to lift the lid on and show like the depth of touch and finesse and sonority in that instrument. So anything you can do to open that up is to be encouraged. I like your choice of drum. What drum was that? It was nice. Sound good.
It's a Pearl Symphonic series. It's something crazy way I got it. My dad came home from work and somebody just like gave it to him because they knew I was a drummer, and I tuned it to feel like my practice pad.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, and it ended up sounding. It's not very loud. It's kind of quiet compared to like a. It's very tight. It's a very tight tuning, but
yeah. And what kind of sticks are you using?
Vic Firth 5As and
5As. Yeah.
They're very small, but it's I kind of looked at my bag and I was like, all right, what do I not feel bad about beating the crap out of? So, and I had nothing because I try to keep nice sticks, but I went to Guitar Center and bought like a couple pairs of 5As and I had my practice set, my performance set. And I just had to drum with those for a long time because, I mean, they're different than like a freer pair,
I mean, what I would say is that I might like to hear you play the piece with some 5Bs. Yeah. I mean, I think that would be good. Just get a little more weight in there. That might feel a bit daunting at first, but I think you would enjoy that.
The other option was SD1s, which
okay.
Yeah. But I really resonate with your comment about it seems like there's a limit as far as how much I was giving to the piece and selling it and giving it depth. I feel like that happens a lot, and I've started to realize that a lot lately, is that I go into things and I practice the techniques required for pieces and stuff and then apply it to the music, but I would say that focus builds a wall between opening myself up a little bit whenever.
Well, that's really interesting to hear. But do you regard that as a problem?
I wouldn't say it's when the performance is for me, I guess it's not a problem because I do what I practice and I accomplish that. But when the performance is for others, then I think what I practice might make them lose something a little bit that could have happened that would have,
Yeah, I mean, this is a very interesting discussion. I mean, I think what I would say, I now have to go from my own experience.
Absolutely.
I think the entirety of my practice, really, my actual practice, time in the practice room, would have to be defined as technical. And what I'm doing is I'm practicing is the goal of refining the technique, and in that process it's refining your sound. That's part of your technique in my book, and balance, and placement and tempo control. Now, that's very, very good, but that's what your practice is for. But what is really interesting about music is ideas and emotion. Now, for that, you do not require the practice room. And if I'm learning a piece, whatever it may be, ideas for a piece formulate just through one's own experience, and you being you, and me being me, and Paula being Paula, and Vlad being Vlad, and whoever we've heard tonight. Everyone's personality will come out in a piece.
Sure.
And thank goodness for that. It would be awful if we all played the same and sounded the same. So one's personality and one's it sounds like a very pretentious word to use. One's journey, like as a musician, does come out when you play. The audience can tell what you've been through and what you're going through when you perform, and that is the great thing. For me, music, it is all about emotion. Music is an emotional art form. It is not especially cerebral. There are cerebral aspects to it, and there are some music is more cerebral than others, and I like that too. But in the end, the ultimate descriptor emotion, and I stand by that. I mean, right until my dying breath. There you go. There's a statement for you. So, but the practice room, it's kind of, you go into the practice room, you close the door, then that's a different thing. I mean, that is trying to train your body to be able to transmit these things, musical messages, which are totally abstract. I mean, you can't actually explain to someone what's going on when you perform a piece. It's not allowed. It wouldn't work. And the beauty of music, of course, is that it is abstract and it cannot really be described. There's a great, very famous Frank Zappa quote, in case you don't know it. Writing about music is like dancing about architecture. And you can't do it. I mean, people who write books about music, like,
That's a good one.
Yay, good luck with that. And sometimes I read them and sometimes I learn from them, but that's not why we play music. I play music to be hit between the eyes, shot through the heart, and that's what music's about. So don't be hard on yourself when you're in the practice room and you're getting your technique together. I mean, I'm full of admiration for that, and I can see that, and your hands are moving, and the snare drum sounds great. But I think let it out. I mean, be the performer you want to be. And some people, everyone's different. Everyone has different levels of I don't know what the word would be, eccentricity, or if you're maybe a better word is whether on what part of the scale you are with it being an introvert or an extrovert. For a lot of people, myself included, the concert hall is a fantastic place because I feel I can be like wildly extrovert there, like totally just I bring it on. And the more people, the more people listening, the better, and I sort of thrive on that. But other people, feel differently about music and a more introverted approach, and that also can be very, very beautiful. And there's a poignancy to that, and that works better for different types of music. As a percussionist playing a snare drum solo, there is no room for introversy whatsoever, and it's all
Absolutely.
about charm and wisecracks, and being a drummer that's as good as it gets. I mean, they make T-shirts about that. I'm with a drummer because it's so cool, and it's
right. Yeah.
It's something that you can feel proud of, and I always think that the skill of being able to play a snare drum roll is maybe the skill that makes me happiest in all of music, and maybe even like maybe not my whole life, but it's certainly one of the things that has made me the happiest in my existence, is being able to take two sticks and with a very strange instrument indeed make this loud, fast, crazy sounding thing, and it's so like bizarre, and yet it's something that you and I and other percussionists are kind of blessed with. Like, we've been given these tools to be able to do this very strange skill, which is so kind of satisfying as well at the same time. So I think that's something that the joy of being able to play the snare drum is something that's just remember that when you play a piece like this. And cycling back now to something I said earlier on, was maybe give yourself a little more credit for how well you play the piece. I mean, you play it as out the park there, so you've got it. It's all in your head. You're just ready to roll. And then take some gambles. Just take a couple of risks. Try some things out. Make sure that some things don't work out. That's the only way you learn. And
what does that mean exactly? Taking risks.
Yeah, I think taking risks is in live performance is not playing it safe. So whenever we play pieces, there are many crossroads to do with risk taking. It could be going for a very quiet dynamic. It could be going for a fast tempo. There's things that are technically challenging. And it's knowing when risks are good. Like, that's a good risk. I'm going after that one. I can think of, for a concerto that it's just the first thing that came to mind. A concerto that I play often, one written for me by Kelly Viajo, Finnish composer. There is one particular marimba section that it gets very, very tough towards the end of it. And I've always found myself just going for absolute broke on that phrase. And I don't even know how it goes or how many right notes I play. I don't know. But I never regret getting to the top of that run and having really gone for this big musical effect and hitting the downbeat with the orchestra, finishing that run. It's like, I'm so glad I did not go onto the back foot, take the tempo down and take the dynamic down and push the accuracy up. Nah, to hell with that. Live in the moment, push it, play it how the music should be. That's the way to play in that moment. So that's a good risk in that context. There are other bits in that concerto that are much more safe, and you have to play that bit completely square, and you must never miss a note in that bit. But so it's knowing what are the good risks and other moments to be more safe. But in a snare drum solo like that, there's not much. What is the worst that can happen? Nothing really. So I think you can be a little more cheeky with it, a bit more swagger, and it does sound a bit twee, but it's important that it is actually in the end very important bit of advice that you enjoy yourself, because that piece like that is actually on the more accommodating side. You're going to have to do much trickier things like that as a percussionist, but that piece there, that one, that's let's let the good times roll. So make the most of that whilst the going's good. Do you have any final questions? We're almost out of time, I think.
No, I got a.
Oh my goodness!
Good bit of stuff. But I really like the. I just wanted to say I really like the practice room is training your body to communicate these the music, and music is emotion, so it's training your body to. Yeah, that was genius. I love that.
Well, it's just some words to help. I mean, what is music and why are we doing it? What does it mean to you? And why are we going through this, what is sometimes very taxing and very time-consuming process of practice. And it's important to remember, well, it's because music is this indefinable magic. And having a good technique, the only reason to have a good technique is to communicate that thing as best we can. So, yeah,
Sure.
back to the practice room we all go.
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah, that was awesome. Thanks
Very
so
welcome.
much.
Good luck.
That was great. Thank you.
Hi everyone. Sorry, I just started making my dinner for the night, so that's totally my bad. Nice, thank you, Zach.
Megan, do you remember Saya playing as Venturis our freshman year?
I do remember that. It was incredible.
That was crazy.
That's so cool. Yes, I didn't realize that was the story you were mentioning. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was about that. I watch that video sometimes.
It was very good.
So cool.
Yes,
All right,
Zach and I went to college in
Bye.
Texas together a very long time
I
ago.
see.
Yes, we were at Texas. I'm now in Copenhagen and he's now in North Carolina, and we've ended up all over the place. So it's super cool that we get to be back together here.
Yeah, that's nice. Which college in
Yeah.
Texas?
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted to answer.
I was just waving goodbye. Oh, UNT, North Texas.
Very nice.
Yes. Yes. Thank you, Zach. Awesome job. So sorry.
Yeah. Bye.
Okay, up next we have Allison. Allison, are you ready to go? I'm going to go ahead and bring you on stage. Allison, are you there? That's okay. I will send her a message. David, are you ready to go? We can just switch the order if that's okay. Awesome. Yes. Hi, David.
Hello. How are you? How are you?
Good.
Fine. My name is David. I'm from Colombia. I studied in Universidad del Valle. And now I'm gonna present Rhythmic Caprice
Oh, yeah.
by Stevens.
Yeah.
It's not the whole piece. It's just two excerpts, two sections. I'm working on this piece like 3 months maybe. This is for my recital. I'm ending my bachelor, and my idea with the academy is to prepare all the recital with the coaches with you. So I think that's all.
Nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. I can hear the dog.
This like this video is just like the middle section,
Yeah.
and a short excerpt of the final. So, like I have like the principal question for me with this piece in general is how to change between each section, because each section have like a different feeling. The first one is like more is very rhythmic. The beginning, this is like more, I don't know how to say that. It's more, for me it's more relaxed,
Yep.
and the final is like boom. It's
Yeah.
just, so I don't know how to change my mind. I don't know how to explain that between each section.
Well, yeah. So I have a few things to say. First of all, that's a very good start, and I'm sure you'll play this piece very, very well. You have a strong connection to the music.
Thank you.
But what you've said about, well, this section is like this, and you're right. The first section is very rhythmic, and the last section is kind of big, and then that middle section is kind of maybe a bit more melodic and gentle, or whatever you want to say. But the key that you have rightly said is that you have ideas for each section, and that's very, very strong and very, very important for this piece. So what you have to do is maximize, make sure your ideas become very, very focused. So in that first section, it really has a strong identity, and this is something I've already been saying this evening when we start speaking about Kevin Boland's Asanga, is the identity of each episode. Now, this approach is also true in Rhythmic Caprice and many other pieces where there is, kind of a short piece. Rhythmic Caprice is what, 6 minutes, 7 minutes? I don't know.
7 maybe.
7, 8, or at the most. It's between 6 and 8, depending on what you do. But so it's a piece it's virtuosic. It's a tour de force. So I think all these things are important to maybe look at the big picture as well. Is that this piece, it's a show piece. For your audience, you're going to be playing the marimba in a way that no one is expecting. It's very, very important. The goal for any piece like this would be to play it for the general public. So not, if you like, just for percussion purposes or percussion masterclass or we want to play it for the public. That's the ultimate goal, is to take our art into the concert hall and away from, if there is such a thing, the percussion, harsh word to use, the ghetto, but into the public. And so a piece like Rhythmic Caprice is very, very strong from that point of view, because the techniques involved are so strange and unexpected. So that's the first thing to say about the piece, is the piece as a whole has to make a very strong impression as a tour de force. And what you do have to be careful of is to make sure that there are no sort of rough edges in the piece. Now, there's one very important bit of technical information for you, which you must address before you do anything else in your practice, and that is when you are changing your sticks to the slap.
Yeah.
There's even a little diagram in the score. Your mallet heads are in the wrong place.
Yeah, I mean, when uh, I was studying that moment, for me it was more, it was easier to play with the bottom of the mallet. I think.
Yeah, okay. You have to hear me on this. You do play with the bottom of the mallet. that is what you do. But your pivot is in the wrong place, and that's why when you change sticks, to be honest, that you say it was easier for you. That bit looked incredibly difficult because you're like, "Whoa!" You were trying to change. So with all humility, and don't take this badly, what you really must do is don't do that anymore, and have a look at the score again, and maybe a video. I don't know if there's a video of Lee playing it. Of course, Lee's performance of it is legendary, very, very good, and very smooth. When he plays the piece, it's like butter. It's like water. Just everything is just so super nicely organized. It's beautiful. I've heard him play the piece many times. Gorgeous. So if there is a video of him doing it, but definitely make sure that when it comes to putting the sticks down, it's actually quite easy. You just place them there. The mallet heads are on your left. So I know there's like a mirror here or whatever, but it's on the performer's left. And if you look at the front page, if you go to the beginning of the score, you'll see a diagram.
Yeah.
And it's very, very important that the mallet heads are the pivot. But it's from this side, from the player's perspective, and not here, not on that side. That's so much more difficult to get the mallets on. But when the mallet heads are to your left, I've never performed the piece, but I did learn it. So that bit your left hand is playing, you just simply place the mallets there, and then pick them up, and off you go. So definitely change that, because, as I say, don't take this harshly. The way you've done that it's like a mistake. So definitely switch. Okay. And then so the other good thing about this piece is that it's very well notated, and I think the more you can do to be accurate with the piece, the better it will be. If you start to take liberties with the tempo, if you start to cheat, so if you start to do little things with the tempos because it's technically difficult, and if you start to make things loose, I think the piece is less effective. So when you are mastering the piece, it does take some time, then try to really find a tempo in which you're not having to cheat too much.
Yeah.
Because that is a problem. And then also this central bit which you performed in the video there, some of it's not smooth enough. You have these lines, these melodic lines, these dee da da dee do do bom, for example. That should really be incredibly beautiful and sonorous in a phrase. And if you start like dee da da dee da da da, if you start doing little things like micro adjustments for technical reasons, it has quite a bad effect on the music. So I think go slow, but really try and not cheat. I gave a lesson on this piece quite recently, and we really, when it was 1-to-1 in the same room, what we did is we ended up doing everything really very, very slowly, but incredibly accurately. So there is a good way of practicing this piece with the metronome, and really getting it slow. And also, I think the sound of this piece is quite difficult because of all the things on the edge of the bars. You really want that sound to have a depth. So when you are playing on the edge of the bar, it can't just be the high kind of sounds. You really want to try and get the partial, the fundamental partial of the note as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like a lot of information. It's very useful for me. I don't know. For example, for this piece, I'm using rattan mallets. I don't know. It could works, or or maybe another type of mallets do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, Lee, of course, plays at Birch, and he would probably say to you, Birch be the way to go. I mean, I play Burton technique, so I don't use any birch sticks. I haven't used birch sticks for 20 years. Nothing against the sound, not really, but it's just as a player, I'm rattan 100%. But my technique is very different to yours. What is maybe useful about the birch here, and with a technique that you have, is that for the sound of the shaft on the marimba might be a little stronger with using birch.
Okay.
You might have a better sound because rattan might just be a little not quite strong enough.
Okay.
So I think maybe birch. Maybe try and find birch. I mean, obviously, I think something like some kind of set of Van Sice sticks could be very good here, which I don't quite know what those shafts are, but if they are rattan, or maybe you can get both. I don't really know those sticks. I don't use them, but those shafts on some of them, at least, the Van Sice sticks, they are quite flexible, but they're quite strong, so they could be very good. They could be worth
Okay.
investigating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
But I think mallet choice is quite difficult in this piece. You need something with a bit of bite, but you need something that sounds really good in that bottom octave. So, I mean, to be honest, the sticks you used, they did sound pretty good. So I don't think a big change is needed.
Okay.
But maybe birch could be good for all the effects.
Yeah.
You might have a bit more strength.
I'm gonna try the.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try the different kind of mallets.
Yeah.
Yeah, but your information is very useful for me for this section in specific. Yeah,
Okay.
thank
Yeah,
you
you're welcome.
so much for. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank
Good
you.
luck.
I'm also working on this piece right now as well, and it's a big challenge to have. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to. I was like, oh, you're ready. I can bring you on stage. Yeah, it's a really big challenge to like be able to have the right sound with all of these different characters when there's no time to switch or anything. So you did a very nice
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Okay. Up next, we are going to go with Jared. Jared, are you ready to go? Okay, nice. Hi, nice to meet you. Good to see you.
Hello.
Thanks.
Good to see you.
Would you like
Hi, Jared. Nice to meet
Nice
you.
to meet you too.
would you like to quickly introduce yourself and talk a bit about the piece you're playing? Thanks so much.
Yes, so my name is Jared Collar. I'm from Northwest Indiana in the United States, about an hour from Chicago. I graduated with my bachelor's degree back in 2018. So I've been kind of playing around for the past few years, and over the past couple years, I've started doing more solo works with wind ensembles and orchestra and trying to get more into that field. So I think on the spreadsheet, something got messed up and it said I was playing time, but I'm actually going to be playing recording from Prometheus Rapture that I did back in November. So it's a snare drum solo. I'm going to do movement 3, for sake of time, movement 3 up until the cadenza at the end of movement 6. I don't know if you have the music. I did re-upload it into the spreadsheet, so you should be able to access the music now in the spreadsheet if you need it.
Okay. Yeah. I would let the video roll. I may have a slight rummage around for that, but looking forward to hearing your performance. So all good. Yeah, very good. Right, you'll have to educate me here. I know nothing about what I just witnessed. Could you explain to me what this piece is and how, what this arrangement is? Is this an original composition or is this a tell me everything?
Yeah. So this is it's a piece called Prometheus Rapture, and it's subtitled Seven Legends for Snare Drum and Orchestra. It's by American composer Sean Beeson. Wrote for Dame Evelyn Glennie, and it says anywhere from 3 to 6 snare drums. So it's up to the performer to decide what snare drum to play when. But it's all his music. He's a video game and film composer, so a lot of themes throughout there that you would hear in a lot of film music as well.
Mm-hmm. And so which section, where in the structure of the whole piece is this section we just heard?
It starts on movement 3, Vulcan's Forge, and it ends at the cadenza, which is at the end of movement 6.
And how many movements are
7.
there? So, oh right, I see. So this is towards the end of the piece. Yeah.
And the whole thing's about 50.
Yeah, I mean it's it's a fascinating thing. I mean, I know so little about this kind of music, and also the concert band culture is something that is it's not uniquely North American, but it's something that we don't really have. Certainly, the United Kingdom, symphonic music for symphonic band is limited. I mean, we don't really have. So this band you're performing with, also, that's my next question is who are they and where do they reside?
So they are I guess they consider themselves semi-professional. They're called Windiana. And they're
Oh, I'm so glad I asked.
And they're in Northwest Indiana where I live. They're about 15 minutes north of where I currently live. So they're pretty local to me.
Well, and on that subject, can I just ask, I hope you don't mind a digression, are you excited about Tyrese Halliburton?
Remind me who that is.
So you're not following the Indiana Pacers?
I do not. I am not a sports person. I don't. My dad is, but I am not.
Okay, because it's this huge event for Indiana right now with the Pacers, and they have this. One of their players is called Tyrese Halliburton,
Okay.
and he's taking these like wild. Well, they're not wild shots. They're very skillful and they're on target. But he's doing these like buzzer beater game winner shots that are just absolutely insane. And it's well, maybe that tells you more about my internet feed than perhaps yours. But I just had to ask you since Indiana came up more than once there. So you're not a Hoosier?
Not. I mean, I grew up here, but I'm not a sports person.
Okay, so we'll have to move swiftly on from that. So yeah, I mean, so from the video, I can see that. I think one of the problems with this presentation was I right? Am I right in saying that you had some kind of baffle to your left?
Right.
Yeah. This is hard, and sometimes this is what we come up against as soloists. But it does speak of a challenge to do with balance in a piece like this. And I think, I mean, I'll be on it. I mean, it can be no other way. But to be honest, I can't really tell about the integration from the video. But I think the main challenge here is to make sense of the snare drum music over what might be a piece of music that could maybe exist with no snare drums at all. Was my impression of it. And it's not a criticism of you. It's not even particularly a criticism of the piece. It's just how do we get that? And it is a problem that sometimes we face in the repertoire we play. Sometimes there are pieces of music which are for solo percussion and orchestra, and the solo percussion part lacks credible integration in the conception. It can be achieved, but there are concertos in my repertoire where it's like it's so obvious where things need to be placed and how I should play, and it's so clearly and convincingly supported in the orchestra. And then there are other pieces which can still work, where it's like, what is going on here? So recently I played, and actually this was, I thought was, in the end, was a very, very fine piece by Austrian composer Olga Neuwirth concerto. But there were considerable challenges to the integration of the solo parts and considerable challenges to do with balance. And I think what I would say to you is a piece like this, where the snare drum is the line, is fraught with challenge. And I think you have to sort of define the role of the soloist in this piece. How it can be a difficult thing to do using words, but how would you put into words the role of the soloist, the solo snare drummer in this piece of music?
Yeah, it is hard to put in words. Because sometimes it's supposed to stick out, like it doesn't line up, and then it'll randomly lock in with something someone else in the orchestra is playing rhythmically. So I can almost see this piece being like kind of like you said, like standalone without the soloist, and kind of simplifying the snare drum part, and it would just work as a band or orchestra piece.
Yeah.
But then they just made the snare drum part extra difficult and decided to make it a solo.
Yeah, it comes so far, so they just thought they'd push it over the edge.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I even think we mentioned about your setup and the baffles and that whole situation. I mean, I even think that perhaps you should be more like in the middle of the ensemble for this piece. And I don't know if you'd be able to do that with the Windiana, or if they would support such a thing. But it seemed that you were over there, and then they were doing something else over in the middle of the stage. And so through a simple way of keeping you in a prominent position, but more centrally somehow, would be really, really good. And I think these things to do with setup are very, very important. I don't like it when percussion is pushed to one side. I saw a thing recently online, a very good, reputable performer, and I think it was to do with the venue, but their whole concerto setup had been put to the side of the orchestras, and they played the whole concerto on the side. And so maybe I've got a bit of a bee in my bonnet at the moment, because I saw that and I thought, this is terrible. You know, how can you do this? I mean, to this poor soloist. I mean, I think they were probably elbowed out, but I think the central role, and then it's difficult because the placement of the conductor is kind of tricky. So I think pieces need to conceive, composers, if any composers are going to pay attention to this, or if we can just talk about it, is the conception of the setup is really, really important from the beginning of a piece. And I still get too many concertos, some of my actually really good concertos arrive, no setup anywhere, like nothing, you know, and I'm left there thinking, hang on a minute, where am I going to put these 27 cowbells or whatever it is?
Right.
So I'm critical of composers sometimes in that regard, and not all, but some of my more successful pieces, they have all those things immaculately thought out. So the Calle Viajo concerto, which I've already mentioned once tonight, so maybe it's just on my mind, he had this excellent and very clear conception of how the setup was. So I start on stage left, and then I gradually move stage right, and then I come back again. Same set of instruments, but very different touch. So it's kind of very special structural element to the piece to do with the setup. And then the audience can kind of read it, because they're like, oh, he's going that way. And lo and behold, he's coming back. So I bet you the piece is going to finish when he gets back to that
Right.
one, and it does. So, yeah, integration is important in this piece, because I feel ultimately it should be integrated. And although you said sometimes the snare drums go off on their own, but then they pick up things in the band, I could hear that, but I wanted it to come at me this way rather than from there and then over there. So that's one of my main things. Question for you: how is it, as a young soloist in that part of the USA? I'm fascinated to hear. I mean, if you don't mind, if I can ask the question.
I think with anything, it's about who you know in your network. I did a couple solos during my undergrad in 2017 and in 2018, and then I stopped for the last couple of years because I didn't think I was good enough. And then last year I decided, or 2 years ago, I decided I was going to approach, because I've been playing in 2 different bands that play only in the summer. And I asked both those directors, I brought a piece to them and asked if we could do it. And that led to me performing this piece. And it also led to me playing my first solo with an orchestra back in March. So it's kind of building up with who you know, and then hopefully from there more people catch wind of it, directors talk to each other, and it kind of builds off of that.
Yeah. And which repertoire did you play with the orchestra, can I ask? Because that's one of my favorite areas of
I actually worked with Edition Spitzer and premiered Kilroyker's Xylophone Concerto No. 2.
And tell me about that piece. Yeah.
Do what?
Tell me about that piece.
It was hard. It was tough. The composer passed away in the 90s, and this piece wasn't found until 2010. It was just manuscript; it wasn't completed. So Edition Spitzer hired Casper Cornelius in Denmark to complete the piece. It was finished 3 years ago, with the piano reduction. Was never orchestrated until I reached out to them about orchestrating it and performing it. But yeah, it was tough. It's not written by a percussionist. Definitely not written by a percussionist.
Wow. But some of the best pieces aren't. What I find is that non-percussionists who write for percussion, they're more at liberty. So a percussionist writing a percussion piece will shy away from certain things because they'll know, oh, that's a bit tricky. Whereas I think one of my best concertos is by Helen Grime. I mean, it doesn't, nothing fits. There's not one easy phrase in the whole concerto. And yet it is one of the most satisfying and uplifting instruments. And it elevates the whole art form in one piece. And it's totally not percussion friendly. The sticking is all over the place. The registers are difficult. Balance is tricky. But it is, man, it's wow. But that's great. So you have this premiere. I mean, I would say to you as someone getting into solo work, it's tricky. And there are two threads to being a soloist. One, the most important thread is to get your own repertoire. Get your new music written for you that you are passionate about. That is number one. And then the other part of the path is to have some kind of relationship with the existing repertoire. Okay. And with that, you need to be quite selective and select things which you feel that you really have a confidence with. Because now at this point with solo percussion, I mean, there are hundreds of us. We're everywhere, and the field is full of very competent players, and we all know the pieces that get played. So you need to select. If your connection to the existing repertoire needs to be selective and strong, and then your new music element needs to be something that you feel passionate about and are comfortable with and want to be that ambassador for.
Okay.
So I'm really happy to hear about your premiere, and congratulations are definitely in order. And what piece are you working on next?
I am actually going to be playing with a couple high schools starting in December all the way through spring. A piece called Concert Piece for Marimba by Clifton Taylor. It was released in 2022, published in 2022. And then after that, I'm working with the same group, Windiana, to perform Mark Ford's Marimba Concerto that he just premiered last year.
Okay, sounds good. That sounds great. Please do keep it up. If you were to connect with an existing piece of the repertoire, I know that the Jennifer Higdon Concerto, which is a very strong piece, has a version for the symphonic wind.
Okay.
Would be maybe a nice one to try. And certainly you get the materials very easily. Her publisher is very well
For
organized.
sure. Awesome. Thank you so much. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. Keep going. Nice
Thank you.
work.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Okay, we're on to our very last person. Allison, hi. How's it going?
Hi, Alison.
Hi,
Hi.
I am happy to be here. And my name is Alison, and I am from Mexico. And I'm going to play Niflheim, or fragments of the piece Niflheim for marimba. And these parts are demanding or a little bit difficult because I have too much notes or activity. And then I think I saw playing with a lot of energy and, I don't know, strong um, interpretation. And I think if you have some advice about this when you are playing a passage with that this have that this need a lot of energy, and if you have some of that advice or I don't know.
Yeah. I'll try my best.
And
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a fantastic performance. I mean, that is really, really sounding good. I love your approach. And you mentioned energy, but you seem to have lots of energy. And I think you made a very good choice with your sound and your mallet choice. Mallet choice is very, very central to anything we play. And sometimes I get a bit sad about it almost, because once you've chosen your mallets, so many things have been decided. And it can, sometimes it can mean that the music or certainly a discussion about it can have limitations, because once you have a certain set of mallets in your hands, the die is cast. I mean, you kind of know what's going to happen. So it just means ultimately that it's such a very, very important thing, and it tells you so much about a player, is simply what mallets they pick up, and when they go to an instrument, you already know kind of how it's going to be. But what I noticed with you is that your mallets are, they're kind of on the medium side, not overly hard, which I like. And it's actually my favorite approach with the marimba, is a mallet that is not too harsh, but you give a lot. So that is probably the best approach for the marimba, because the sound of the marimba, in actual fact, it is not particularly strong. It's not as strong as a piano. It doesn't project like many other instruments. The projection of the marimba is somehow, I wouldn't say it's limited, but as soon as you get away from a marimba, in a concert hall, if you're even in like the fifth row, let alone the back of the hall, the sound is typically proportionally, it gets more and more weak the further away you go from the instruments, so that what you really want to be is right next to the instrument, which of course you can't be as an audience member. So that's why your approach with the sound and putting a lot of energy into the instrument is very, very good, and it's really working. So what question do you have for me? Because in terms of energy, I think you're doing everything right, exactly right.
I I always think that you feel something when you are playing, but you don't know how you see, how you, because you don't see, you are feeling, you are playing, and then I feel energy, but I feel hard to play. I feel that, oh, this is hard, I need more energy, and or I don't know, it's hard playing,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
uh-huh,
Well, what I would say is that
it's like,
it's important to know that the audience is not in your head. So whatever you're feeling, now we've already spoken about this evening with other people, is, sometimes we feel great on stage, and other times really feel not good at all, for whatever reason. Sometimes it's practical reasons to do with setup, things aren't right. Sometimes we're not prepared enough, who knows, or tired, or you've got a bad day, or whatever it is. So we all can feel bad on stage. But the audience they're not in your head. So if you feel bad, I mean, I understand that maybe that's not the best word, and you're just trying to explain yourself generally. Maybe it's okay to feel bad. And it's not something to be afraid of. I think that's part of being a performer, is that I can tell you're not going to feel 100% every time you get on stage. And sometimes the task is going to seem impossible, but at 7:30 or whenever it is, the door will open and you have to go on stage and play a certain piece at a certain time for somebody else. And I think as a musician, what you have to try and do is be respectful to this incredible art form that we're all part of, and embrace that challenge. I mean, music is not a science. It is an artistic endeavor, and it has highs and lows, and they're all for the good. And actually, I must say, for me, I mean, like anyone, who doesn't love playing a great concert? I mean, I'm always happy when things go well. But when I play a concert that goes well, I don't learn anything. Yeah, I haven't learnt anything. I've enjoyed the experience and I'm happy with what I did, but there's no takeaway. So I kind of look forward to things going wrong, and then something will go wrong, as inevitably it does, and I say to myself, good. Here we are. This is a lesson, and this is something I can improve when I come back here tomorrow. If it's in a run of concerts, I can come back the next day and approach a different way and learn a lesson and become a more experienced player and a better player. And, you know, experiences, the ups and downs of being a musician, they have to be embraced. Otherwise, it can be very negative. And for you, I mean, when you spoke about your performance, you said, "Oh, I'm not sure about my energy." I was not expecting to see the video I saw, which is someone who played with a huge amount of energy. So that was kind of funny. I would say the one problem you don't have is with energy. If you're looking for constructive criticism, I like the way you play, but there's a lot of movements that maybe don't help you. I mean, I think they complete the performance and they're part of your character. So I don't want to change that, but it could be that some of your movements are maybe getting in your way. I mean, I'm very, very strong fan of economy of movement. It's one of my main themes in how I play. But I'm not stupid, I hope, and I do realize that we're percussionists, and yeah, sure, when it comes to concerts, I also can lose myself in a moment and play in a way that uses excess energy and movement. But economy of movement, when you're preparing, it is very, very important. You use a lot of arm. That could maybe be difficult once or twice, although you also seem to play very accurately. So I don't know what to say.
I think I was talking about that. I feel that I use, but I don't know how do you use less. Yes, I think how, but I normally have this kind of preparation with connection. I feel that I need to connect all, and then right now I am practicing the way that to play more that you are saying, to don't use too much movements in some parts.
Well, I think that's good. It's important to know one thing about percussion and dynamics is if I put a question, which actually, if you don't mind, I'll just answer it straight away. But the question is, how do you play loudly on percussion instruments? And the answer is speed. Okay, it's how fast you play the instrument. It's how quickly. If I limited your speed to this speed, you would never be able to play loudly. Even if you came from here, it would always be boom. Okay, but if I said to you, okay, that's your height here, but you can play as fast as you like, boom, you would be able, using speed, to play loudly. So that is an important thing to remember, is it's not how far away you get from the instrument. That's not it. It's the concentration of the energy and the speed, the vitesse of your attack is how you get well, something that sounds loud.
I didn't know that information.
Yeah, I mean, it's
normally,
maybe it might be simplistic, but I'm pretty sure it's true. So could be something for you to think about, because I think you are a little too far away from the instrument at times. I like your style, and as a performer, it's working, but have a think about it, and kind of focus the energy, and stay a little closer to the keyboard. I think as a rule, a little bit more from the wrist. When you're playing marimba, the arm only really comes out for special occasions. I mean, it does come out, sure it does, but really, bit more from the wrist, and stay a little more upright. You're quite bent. You're a little over the instrument. A little more. Keep the chin up, and a little more straight back. Yeah. But don't lose your style. Try and absorb some of this, and keep your keep the style that you have, because you have a natural performance flair, which is working. Maybe just choose your moments. That's another good bit of advice when you're playing, is that the audience get they turn off if you give them too much. So if you're a player who plays too much, I don't like these very extrovert percussionists who come out like this. Can't stand that. And most audiences don't like it either. It's too much. Dial that down, focus, and then give them one or two high points, and then come back. That's much more interesting to the audience. So choose your moments where you really let everything go, and then otherwise a little more focus.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Good luck.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Allison. Very nice job. And thank you, Colin, for an awesome evening. So much great feedback and so many great discussions. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Good luck, everyone. Thanks for having me, and keep up the good work, everyone. It's very heartening to see everyone working hard and practicing and doing their thing. Very, very nice to see. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you so much. And for everyone watching on the live stream, be sure to check back right at 5 p.m. UTC. Again, tomorrow we will have Ji Hye Jung with us tomorrow. So be sure to check